The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. If I seem extra excited today, it's because I am. We have so many good things going on today, and it's going to start with the fact that Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here and she's going to be answering your questions live here on the show in just a few moments. And normally we would be going live to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And in fact, we had a fabulous guest, Vince Redmond, scheduled for today. And Vince said to us, you know what, you have so much happening at noon, Shannon, that I'm going to let you take this hour off. So we're going to go off the air. We're going to remind you of this in an hour. We're going to go off the air for an hour because then an hour later at noon Pacific time, we have something that's happening here in our studio that has never been attempted before. and it's a very, I laugh because it's a huge undertaking, but we're really thrilled and excited because Corey Feldman and his beautiful wife, Courtney, came to us and to Act Today and said, I would like to do something. I would like to be of service. And after much discussion, he said, I'd really like to do a telethon. So starting at noon Pacific time here, for those of you on the East Coast, that's 3 p.m. For 4 hours, Corey and his wife, Courtney, are going to host a telethon, but a modern day telethon on Facebook Live here from our studio. And the guests that we have during those 4 hours, it is a cavalcade of excitement. I'm just going to tell you that in the first hour, we're starting with a big band performance by Donnie Most. If you're not a certain age, then you may not know who Donnie Most was, but if you ever watched Happy Days, he was Ralph Malph, the redheaded, and he now performs in a big band. So we are having on this very floor a big band performance, a small big band performance, but the level of guests that we have both dropping in and their well wishes, including Dave Navarro, Brad Garrett, Jameson Newlander, JP Cali Smooth, the band Dokken is going to do for the first time ever live. They're a heavy metal band and they're going to do an acoustic. It's unheard of, and that's not even, the tip of the iceberg of how many people we have lined up for a 4-hour period. I guarantee you that it will be exciting. But let's not forget that the whole purpose of this is to raise money for autism care and treatment today. Act Today, something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I serve on the grants committee for Act Today, and I know all too well the letters that come in from people asking for help and asking for support to be able to give their kids the things that they know that their kids deserve and the things that their kids need that are outside of their means. And there's no shame in that. I think that every single person who has a child who's on the autism spectrum will tell you that there is no way for anyone to be able to afford it. And sometimes when you're in the right headspace to say, please, I need help, it takes a lot of energy to do that. And the fact of the matter is that Act Today has been able to help hundreds and hundreds of families with the things that they need. They've given away more than $1.5 million worth of services and products to be able to help families for the things that families ask for, whether it's an iPad, help with a medication, help with a copay, help to get a fence or to get a tracking device because their child elopes. Whatever the family asks for, there's a possibility they can get a grant. But the reality is that there isn't enough money ever. And this keeps me awake at night, and I know it keeps a lot of people awake at night. But today, we're going to save some lives today. I know that for a fact, and we hope that you guys will tune in It will be here. However you're watching us, it will be here. We encourage you to watch it on Facebook because it will be live on Facebook, and you can be interacting with all of the stars. After they do their performances, they're going to be in a room and talking to you on Facebook Live. So we encourage you to do that. You can ask them your questions directly, and they'll be answering. That's happening at noon in just 2 hours from now. But first, we have great things to do because Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here. I do want to remind you, if Samantha hasn't already, that everything we do here is meant to be interactive. There's lots of different ways you can participate, lots of different ways that you can write in your questions. And so while Samantha reminds you of what those different ways are, I'm going to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. The great thing about writing in there is that it's completely anonymous. But again, during the telethon, we're going to encourage you to write in on Facebook Live. All right. Have we covered everything? Oh, I do want to tell you that when you're on our homepage, it's completely anonymous. Put your cursor where it says your question, type, hit enter, and it will show up here, and you and I can have a conversation, and more importantly, you can have a conversation first off with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. So let's get right to it. It's time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh here with us. We have missed her. She has been away, but we're thrilled to have you back on this big day that we have a fundraiser.
I'm so excited. It's fabulous to be back. And I just have to say, I'm just so amazed at Corey for doing this.
Right?
Like, I mean, there's such a huge amount of time and effort and commitment, and I just earlier thanked you and Nancy for making this happen, but like on their side, it's incredible how many people they've gotten together, and the fact that they're spending their entire day here. I just think it's so generous of him.
And they've spent months really reaching out to their people and saying, you know, almost all of the guests, Corey personally contacted them and said, I need you to show up. These kids need us. There is a need here, and that they're coming in and, you know, bringing their bandmates and setting up and tearing down in a very short amount of time with very little frou-frou. We are having a red carpet here. It's very strange to have a red carpet here. But there were so many press requests of people saying, "Can we come?" that we said, "Okay, we're gonna make a red carpet."
It's awesome.
But it really is a huge.
He has no connection to autism.
No, I will tell you, he was on the show last week, and if people didn't see that interview, they really should, to see what a big heart he has.
Yes, that's, I think, the key here.
And honestly, you know, kind of what happened. I think he's always had a big heart, and he and his wife had recently participated in an event with an autism group where they were talking about nutrition, because that's a very big deal with them.
Yes.
And so they were a little bit getting into knowing more about the autism community, and then they went on the Today Show to perform. And I you know, if you watched Saturday Night Live this last week and Katy Perry performed, and it was a very avant-garde performance, and I thought it was great fun. Mm-hmm. And when Corey performs, it's, you know, it's not like, let's just stand in front of microphones. There's a performance. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit, I think, on the avant-garde side, more like the Katy Perry performance at Saturday Night Live. But people went, I guess they weren't used to seeing that on the Today Show. Mm-hmm. And people went nuts and wrote horrible things.
Oh, really?
Horrible. I mean, and it was millions of people that glommed on and said horrible things. And it really, I think we see all too often on the internet that bullying, because it's so anonymous, people feel like they can just jump on and say horrible things to people.
Right.
And it was so devastating that Corey came forward and did another video, and he cried and said, I just can't believe that people could be this mean. Yeah. And said, you know, we need to not bully. Well, Nancy Alspaugh Jackson saw that and was so touched by it, and said, you know, this is somebody who and because bullying is such a big issue for our kids. Absolutely. On the autism spectrum. Absolutely. And so that Nancy reached out to him and said, would he come to Denim and Diamonds? Right. And he did come. He did come. And he saw Logan Shepard play at Denim and Diamonds and said, this is amazing. I want to be more a part of this. I want to help. What can I do? And that's how that all tumbled. But it started with bullying. And
Yeah.
he really, part of his message that you guys will see today is that let's do something positive instead of doing something negative.
Absolutely.
And he put his time and his name and his whole life on the line to be able to do this.
Right. I hope we get really good press here today, because honestly he deserves it. I mean, this is a really amazing thing that someone's doing for a cause that they're not even really affiliated with.
And when you see people over a period of time and you see what they're made of and what drives their decisions, I've said this about you, that nobody ever wants to say anything about you, because I have your six always, because I know who you are and I've seen you in pressure situations again and again and again make the choices for our families and for our kids above everything else.
Right.
So, it doesn't matter. I know who you are, and I have seen who Corey is too.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has been. There have been several times where he could have said, "You know what, you don't have enough for me to do this. That's enough for star quality." And he said, "This is about us raising money."
Yeah.
And raising awareness again and again and again. So he has my ultimate respect.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
It better be bully free, because I will be the policeman.
Honestly.
Because I agree with his message. If you see something going on, do something positive. Make a choice. Don't do something negative.
Definitely.
Add to, or as my mother used to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all.
Absolutely
Right? But I feel that way about you. And for our viewers that haven't seen you before, I want to say that you're an expert in the field of autism. I believe that you are the preeminent expert in autism in our time, and there is no other time for autism.
Thank you.
And you do make a difference every day, and that you honestly have given us the facility to be able to do this, and none of it would have happened if that hadn't happened. And you continue to be supportive always, but you're always that way with our families and with our kids.
Next time we'll do it at my house.
Well, Corey's already planning next year, so
that's great. We should. It'll be easier there. We just have to make sure we have enough internet connection for everyone wireless. But other than that, we'll set it up.
That's the thing. Well, if I'd known that, because we're Skyping people from different places in the building, I'll just send them to your house and we'll Skype from your house.
Definitely.
And we'll sit here in the studio and we'll let the craziness ensue at your house. All right, we're on for next year, same time, same bat channel. But thank you for all that you do, and we want to remind everybody that you're here. You donate this hour to be able to answer people's questions, but that there is no one in this venue that could give individual specific advice. That's just a reality of the limitations of this, that you don't have an opportunity to actually meet the person and see things for yourself. So we want to let people know that the advice that you will give is not individual specific, that it's meant to be more general information. But having said that, it's always amazing, the information that you give us.
Thank you very much.
I've had the opportunity, especially in the last 2 weeks, to talk to parents that I feel like I'm talking to BCBAs, and it's just because they've been watching the show.
I love that.
For several
fantastic.
years.
There's so many parents where I see with their writing, they just have it. They've gotten the concept. It's fabulous.
I was talking
to
a mom last night who knows skills backwards and forward, and was saying, well, I was telling somebody I want them to add in this program and that you can find this in this curricula area, and it's this lesson and the building block is this. And this is amazing. A mom.
That's amazing. So I want to say, and you haven't seen it yet, but wait until you see it. The new skills for adults. Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And it's not really, I think it's, I'm trying to think of the age. I think it's 14 and up. So but it is an incredible, and the builds though, the one problem I've always had with skills is that we kind of did it backwards, right? We did massive content, and we don't have the type of money to spend on fancy technology, so we sort of just built it ourselves and said, let's just get it out there to people as fast as possible. So it's not really user friendly. Like, you want to get something like you look at our graph, you have to go back out and find something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now the new skills, which we've just built with our partners in India, which we're going to use that skin for
Right.
this skills as well. So we're
Right.
going to use that infrastructure so that it'll make easier to manipulate this one, to maneuver this one. But the new one is just incredible. So everything is at a click, one click.
Wow.
Everything. So, and it's same concept. It's basically 14 and up, and it's for. It has all the different areas for adults, which is amazing. Like everything, you know, I can't even. There's vocational, daily living skills, safety skills, all the executive functioning for adults. There's just pretty amazing stuff, and it's the same format. So you answer questions, and then you will get lessons that you can select from, and so on. And it's about 4,000 lessons.
Wow.
And it is just so much better in terms of its user friendliness, and it produces a multitude of different types of visuals for you, graphs, and it allows you to also put in all of the like dietary medication. It's just fantastic. I was really blown away when I saw the demo.
When do we get it?
It's out. We are, I think, at the end of this month. I think it'll be out publicly, yeah. And I believe they're calling it Skills Living, although there's some debate about that name. I like it, but we'll see.
It's very exciting to me. Like I can't wait to
fantastic.
see it.
It's
And
fantastic.
I have somebody who's about to be 14 in less than 2 weeks now. I
Right,
can't
right.
believe that he's going to be 14. And but it gives me a little anxiety
it's
though
amazing.
too, because it's like, I'm not going to know where the buttons are, and I have anxiety when they move stuff at Trader Joe's.
But this one, it's just very common sense. So
Okay.
it's sort of like anything you hover over, you can click.
Okay.
Anything you go on, you'll be able to click, and it'll take you exactly where you need to go. So you don't have to like go inside a lesson in order to access this page or whatever. You
Okay.
can click from everywhere. It's really well
Exciting.
done. Yeah.
I love it.
It's very
Okay.
nice.
All right. Well, we'll keep you guys posted on that, and I'd love to get a front row seat to be able to see it as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
You'll have to tell me who to harangue for that.
Eliana.
Oh, I have her phone number.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can do that. I know who to get. Okay. I want to start with, we've got a bunch of questions that have come in, and we want to get to some questions.
Absolutely.
So somebody wrote in and said, please help me get through the surly teenage years. Speaking of about to
Yes.
have a 14-year-old. And they said, my 14-year-old has a bad attitude about almost everything except sports. Everything, especially school, is stupid.
Yeah.
I know this is a phase, but how do I respond and deal with all the negativity? Do I correct him, or will that call attention to it? What a great question.
What a tough question.
Okay.
It's a really tough question for me because I also have not a 14-year-old, but I have a girl who just turned 16,
Yes.
as you know. And she also it's kind of difficult for me because I contrast her to her older sister just subconsciously and her brother, both
Yes.
older. And they never complained about school at all, either one of them. And with my 16-year-old, she complains about school. And, so I guess I'm in the learning phase myself as well. But here's what I want to recommend. Before, and I would say typically a lot of this sort of, I have lots of thoughts about this, so I'm
Okay.
trying to get it organized here. So the first part of it is make sure there isn't something else going on at school. That's really important. Like often, we jump to saying, yes, you should just ignore it because he'll grow out of it, and he will, but the issue is just make sure there isn't something going on that's really disturbing. Now, that could be a lot of different things. He could have a bully you don't know about. He could just really feel bad about himself because of the failures he experiences in various classes. So however you go about doing that, it's up to you. I would perhaps definitely look at his grades, talk to the teachers, perhaps have someone that you know that he doesn't know go in and do an observation for you. Figure out what it is that he possibly, if he's into sports, maybe he has friends. So it's not necessarily about that. Maybe it's just academically difficult for him and it makes him feel like a failure. It's too challenging, in which case you should probably get him tutoring. In other words, figure out why he thinks school is stupid.
Yeah.
And if there is a valid reason that you can find, then try to help it, try to fix it, get him a tutor. Maybe if he has an option to select classes, change them around, something like that. Increase his rewards. That's another thing that we often forget is like demand and reward. They have to be balanced, right? So increase the rewards because obviously the demand seems to be too much. Otherwise, if everything seems to be going well, if he has great grades and all that sort of stuff, then what you're looking at is just, you know, I don't want to say laziness, but a lot of our kids in their teen years have a preference for not doing anything. They procrastinate, they don't want to deal with it, and they'd rather do stuff that they enjoy, like sports. Yeah. And if that's the case, then you just need to set up sort of a reinforcement system that allows him to engage in sports if he gets this other stuff done first. And that's as simple as, you know, just finish your meal and you'll get dessert. I mean, it's the same basic concept. But I think it's important to figure that stuff out if you're going to help him, in case there's need for help. Now, having said all of that, there's something else very interesting, that as parents, we always immediately assume that our kids comment on things and we need to fix it. Yeah. And sometimes they comment on things they don't need it to be fixed. They just want to share, like they do with their friends. If a kid goes to their friend and says, this is just stupid, the friend is going to say something like, yeah, it is, whatever, and they're going to move on. Sometimes I realize that my daughter will say stuff to me, not because she wants me to go in and rescue her, but just because she wants to be able to complain to someone. Yeah. And that's it. So, you know, that might be the case too. Be observant and see if that's the situation that's happening.
Okay. So much that you said there that I loved hearing all of that. Of course, my thoughts turned to Jem because he's about to be 14. Yes. And I honestly can say that one of the best things that we did, that we started doing this year, first of all, we made school harder for him because he was looking at stuff and going, I don't know what the point of this is. And I got to be honest, I was looking at it and going, yeah, I don't really know what the point of it is either, because they have them do worksheets and,
oh my gosh,
you know, I mean, it's just like, it's a little much. But we made school a little bit harder, and then...
How did you do that? What do you mean?
Well, we moved him into a different
school,
so that's... It's within the same school, there was a different group of kids that move a little bit faster.
Got it.
So we pushed for the really harder teachers. There was one teacher who is like known for being so tough that nobody wants to have their kid in there if they're afraid, and I was like, give us that one. Really? And it's been great.
Really?
He's
interesting.
Awesome. And it's been tough. It has been tough, and he has been unrelenting, and it's been great.
Fantastic.
But we also, because you always say the reward thing, and my son's currency is not sports, it's games, and he always wants to have friends over to play games, because everything is, I've noticed at this age, everything is Joe cool, I'm not having a reaction, I'm apathetic to everything, it doesn't matter to me, nothing, I'm too cool for school, right? Except about the one thing, whatever they're really into. Yeah. And for my kid, it's the video games. So we gave him a Friday thing that if on Thursday, and I have a way that I can check his grades, if he has all A's and B's, he gets to invite his friends over. He can have 5 friends over. So it's 6 teenage boys in my house, and I have the snacks.
That's awesome.
That are like
That's
the
fantastic.
thing. And I let them make a mess in our
fantastic.
TV room, and they play video games, and they do live streams, and the other kids from school come onto the live stream to watch it, and they scream and yell. I was on the phone the other Friday, and somebody said, is there a fist fight at your house? Because they scream and yell and go, no!
Amazing.
All of them together, and they actually... all of the apathy goes away, and he has worked like a dog to make sure that he has an A or a B on Thursday so that he can have his thing on Friday. But what it's also done is that he has those core of people. So I've noticed that everything at school has gotten better because he has that group of people. Yep. So many of the things.
It helps so much.
It really has made such a difference. And we had a little get together the other day for his birthday, and parents were saying, so who are these group? How did you get this group of kids around him? And I was like, we have a Friday thing, and it's obnoxious. Like, I don't like it. Can I be honest that it's a miserable thing for me because they tear my house apart, and it's a little on the expensive side to put that much sugar that I don't really necessarily agree with into these kids, sugar and gluten. I'm not about that. Bryce Myler had taught me that. She was like, make your house have the best snacks, that everybody wants to go.
She's right. She's right.
And, so they say they like Twinkies. I have Twinkies.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know. What can you say? But anyway, so
That's awesome.
good luck with that. And then, he still is too cool for school the rest of the week, but he cares deeply about the Friday.
That's fantastic.
And at least, because even in that movie Inside Out, there's the whole thing about the transition from the girl and the death of joy.
Yeah.
That they have to become teenagers and joy has to take a back seat.
Absolutely right.
But I get to see him be joyful on Fridays and on almost kid-like, not little kid-like, but screaming and yelling and high-fiving and jumping up in the air and doing whatever.
It's so absolutely fantastic.
And that's the thing that maintains the good grades.
That's right.
It's like cheating.
It's
it really
amazing.
is.
It's
anyway,
amazing.
So that. Okay, let's take a short break and then we'll come back with more questions for Dr. Doreen Grandpichet. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Johansson, and this is My Little House.
My Little House is an interactive, multi-sensory educational felt toy that I invented to help develop children's language skills.
I love My Little House.
I've been working as a speech therapist for over 20 years. I have spent my entire career working with young children. I work with children with language delays, and I have many children with significant cognitive disabilities and children on the autism spectrum. It has been a constant challenge finding toys that are fun, educational, and actually engage my students. In every preschool, since I've been a young therapist, we carry on these felt boards. Kids love them because they're soft and they're fluffy, and there's usually these little pieces that attach to these boards because felt sticks onto felt. You bring them into the activity because they're putting a piece on the board. So it's almost kind of like magic. So then I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just take this one-dimensional board and make it into an actual three-dimensional toy? How cool would that be?
That's the idea behind My Little House. You can spread it out flat like a 4-panel felt board, or here's the cool part. In the blink of an eye, My Little House easily converts into a 3-dimensional reversible house.
This is the outside. This is the inside.
My Little House comes with 36 felt cutout pieces that match outlines in 8 colorful rooms. And they're felt, so they stick. Each piece inside My Little House has been placed with purpose.
For instance, in the kitchen, whole, half, under, on top, inside, big, bigger, and biggest, empty and full, circle, triangle, inside, outside.
Really cool thing, I have a nonprofit, Lecotech. They are the folks that put out the Differently Able Guide for Toys R Us. They've been doing it for 25 years. They gave me their seal of approval as a toy that they feel is a toy with purpose, and that will make a difference. But My Little House isn't just for kids on the spectrum or with significant disorders. It's also for typically developing 2 to 5-year-olds. It's a fun toy.
Oh, this is so soft. That piece goes.
Recently, I took My Little House to the American Speech and Hearing Association convention in Philadelphia, and the response from my peers was overwhelming. Hundreds of therapists, teachers, and heads of school districts wanted to order them.
It was real validation for me that this truly is a toy that needs to get out there.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm a proud autism mom, I'm a former educator, and I am the host of Autism Live. And as all 3 of those things, I want to recommend to you My Little House. This is one of the smartest toys I have ever seen for teaching language to kids who have emerging language. Whether they're on the autism spectrum or completely neurotypical, it's a great, fun, reinforcing toy, but it's especially great for our kids that are on the autism spectrum because it makes learning fun and it makes it tactile. They have these felt shapes and they get to match them up. And I'm telling you, even the adults love to play with this. We loved this toy so much that we wanted to be able to bring it to you at a great discount. So right now, if you will go to www.smartfelttoys, and when you get to the coupon code, put in a-live.com, you'll get $5 off. Isn't that great? So I want to encourage you, go and get My Little House for all the kiddos in your life. Welcome back to Autism Live. I hope that you're as excited about those My Little Houses, or as I call them, Mi Casa Pequeña, because I got one for my niece that we just have a new family member that my niece adopted from Colombia who speaks Spanish, and so we're calling it Mi Casa Pequeña.
Nice.
And I cannot wait to give it to her. But in any case, we are here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet, and she's answering your questions. We had a question come in on the live feed. Kara says, my 11-year-old son who has autism and is ID is really starting to dig in his heels. If he is asked to do something he absolutely does not want to do, example, getting out of the pool at Special Olympics swim practice, which turns into him screaming, resisting, etc., and can become a safety issue. Do you have advice on how we can help him with transitions like this? The explosive behavior is really starting to happen more frequently.
And he's
11-year-old.
Right, and you said, could you read the first section again?
She says, my 11-year-old son has autism and is ID.
Intellectual disability.
Okay,
go
got
ahead.
it. And is really starting to dig in his heels. If he's asked to do something he absolutely does not want to do, for example, getting out of the pool at the Special Olympics swim practice.
Got it.
Okay.
So, so the thing is, there's two, so basically it's a very simple situation where obviously the difficulty that our kids have is always following an instruction or a demand, and particularly when it's going from a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity. So going from being in the pool to being outside of the pool and having to shower and get dressed and all that sort of stuff. So essentially what happens, I'm guessing, is that he will scream, tantrum, get aggressive, whatever it is, and then by doing that he stays in the pool longer. And what happens is he has conditioned you. He has used the ABA on you. In other words, what he's doing is he punishes you for requesting that he get out of the pool. You say, come on, get out of the pool, it's time to go, and he'll, I don't know what it is that he does, but he has a major tantrum or whatever it is, and this is a punishment for you or whoever is asking him, because now the next time you're less likely to ask because you don't want to deal with that punishment, which is him freaking out on you. So it's really very simple. It's very effective.
He's working you, which is a sign of intelligence.
It definitely is. Whenever a child does something manipulative like this, it's always a sign of intelligence, because they're taking the principles of ABA and manipulating you with it, which is fantastic. Now what you have to do is kind of reverse the problem here, and essentially you have to consider it as, okay, what is the problem behavior? The problem behavior is him tantruming, etc., etc. And what you would like to do is not allow that behavior to be effective. We know for a fact that that behavior occurs when he is told to give up a reinforcer that he wants. So essentially what he's doing is he is getting really upset every time you ask him to do something. So he's avoiding that activity. So what you have to do is you have to ignore what he does, and you have to actually force him to do what you said. And that is going to be a little bit difficult initially, but I don't know how, and the child's 11, you should probably have an adult there who forces the issue, so that when you can give him a transition, absolutely. For instance, you can give him a timer, and you can say it's 5 minutes, it's 4 minutes, and show him on the timer somehow, some visual timer that really helps. And then when it finally, the timer goes off, you must physically help him to get out of the pool. Now he's tantruming, crying. I don't know if she described what his outburst is.
Well, she said screaming, resisting, and it can become a safety issue.
Right. So basically you need help, and you need someone who is trained in assaultive behavior management. These are some techniques where you know how to defend and protect yourself, and you know how to restrain the person if you need to, if they're doing something that's going to endanger them or yourself. So, but it will require the breaking of this habit. In other words, he will need to physically be helped out and then redirected to some other activity, so that he realizes that when you say it is time to get out, he gets out. Now, What you also will do is over time, you will teach him. First, you'll just teach him, when I ask you to leave, it is time to leave, period. And that's that. And you must follow through with it. And when he leaves, you give him a big, after his so he leaves, now he's having a major outburst. Doesn't matter, you will assist him to go in, and then you'll wait. Don't interact with him. You will wait for him to calm down enough where you can actually give him something else to do. Usually I like to pick something that's a natural, very easy thing for the individual to do. So for instance, I don't know, ask for a glass of water, or maybe, something in their room, some other thing that requires very little response level. So touch something, or I don't know your child, so I don't know what his capabilities are, but something very easy. And the reason you ask him to do that is because as soon as he does something positive, you can reward it.
So it could be, could you turn on the TV?
Absolutely. It could be anything simple. Could you turn on the TV? It'd be take off your shirt. It could be whatever it is, like put on your, get a towel, open the water, whatever it is, and reward for that. Even though he might be screaming and tantruming, it doesn't matter. You're giving him instructions, and you're rewarding for those instructions, and you're ignoring the tantrum. The tantrum is not happening, but you're just moving along, and don't discuss what happened, nothing like that. Tomorrow, the same thing. You allow him to go in the pool, and then you give him the transition period of time. And gradually, if he learns to ask for more time, which you'll do later anyway, you'll teach him to verbalize later. Once he's learned that your word is the word, and once he's learned that when it's time to leave, it's time to leave, you can teach him to request more time. You can teach him to say, can I have 5 minutes? And then give him the 5 minutes on the timer. In fact, that's not a bad idea even when you start. And he'll see that when the timer goes off, you're not changing your mind. This is very important. Don't start this if you don't have the stomach for it, because if you start it and he tantrums and then you give in, what he's now learned is the more my tantrum, the louder I am, the more intense I am, the more likely they're going to give in. And so now you've reinforced the higher level of tantruming. Don't do that, please. So just make sure you have enough people around you to help, and then just stay firm with it. So this is the typical thing that our kids learn. If I tantrum, they'll let me get away with anything.
And I think, from a parent's perspective, it's that much easier if you do this. If you have an ABA provider and you go to the team and say, I want to do this, and have them help you start it, because you'll get off to a good start. So often parents can do, like, if it's 20 steps, we can do 18 of the steps and get them right. But if we blow it on the 2, we tend to not realize that we blew it on the 2, and we go, this doesn't work. Right. And I know firsthand that what you just described works.
It works. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's mentally hard for parents because we don't have the stomach for it.
And it doesn't feel very rewarding in the minute, because it feels like your child is just freaking out and now your life is miserable. But I know, when we were starting ABA, it was right when the Tiger Mom stuff was all in the news. The mom who was like, my kids are going to do this, and the dad who would take away their blankets and they'd have to earn their blankets at night.
Oh my gosh.
And, and they interviewed the one kid who was old enough to leave the home and said, I will never see my father again.
Yeah.
He's entitled to his opinion about raising, but I'm never going to see my father again. And I remember when I got it in ABA, when you guys told me what to do and how to do it, and when I got it and my son got it, and I was able to follow through on something, and I had that epiphany of, we are going to get along better now.
Definitely.
He and I are going to be closer, because he is going to do what I ask him to do because he trusts me, and he knows that only good things happen then, and he's going to want to listen to me.
That's right.
And we will be closer and better. I remember that Crystal Shepard had said to me when she told me about ABA, she said, if you do it and do it right, it's the best parent training that you will ever get in your entire life. And your friends will start to go, how'd you do that? And my friends did start to say, how do you get him to do, when we'd be at the pool and I would say, you have 5 minutes, and he would go, okay, Mom. And then 5 minutes later, he would get out of the pool, and they'd be dragging their neurotypical kids out screaming and kicking. They go, how do you do that? Is that because of autism that he gets out so compliantly? And I would go, like, that's a reality. No, And that he would get out and give me a hug because he knew he was going to something that was even more fun.
That's right. And because you made it fair and rewarding. This is
But it
what
was
I
ugly
always-
in the beginning.
Oh, it's always ugly in the beginning, because what we end up doing as parents is we don't, and this happens a lot when your child has a diagnosis, obviously, because you feel guilty and you feel bad, and so you want to nurture more even than the typical parent, right? You just want to give them everything you can. So in effect, I mean, the lay term is we spoil our kids, we spoil them, and then it gets to a point where we're not doing anything abusive,
Right.
but we're also not defending ourselves. And the parent's right to be able to say it's time to get out of the pool or it's time to do whatever it is just good parenting. It's not abuse, right? I don't know how I feel about like you having to earn your blanket back.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
There's a little bit of a difference here, because there's no, you don't need to, you know, we're not saying in by any means raise your child in an army barracks. We're not saying that at all.
I think the opposite.
Exactly. In fact, and that's what's really important for parents to realize, is that you're not being abusive. What you're doing is you're teaching your child that there are certain rules in life. One of those rules is listening to your parent. Later on, these rules become extremely important in life. Children who never learn to follow rules are the children who later on get thrown in jail, do things that get into trouble.
They don't have boundaries.
Because they don't realize that there are societal rules. And all you're doing is you're teaching the child that there are societal rules. There are rules. And you need to deal with those rules. And the satisfaction of it initially when the child is young, obviously you have to pair it with a lot of reward. But over time, the child starts to, and I'm sure Jem is there now, they develop a sense of just, they feel good about themselves for having complied with the rule. And that is really, really important, you know, and some kids it takes longer and other kids it's shorter. I mean, I always talk about my kids too, like Nikki, you know, and Nikki, she's always very rule governed. In fact, most of her life I tried to teach her to do others, you know, not be so rule governed, but she gains such an incredible sense of satisfaction by doing the right thing, and she's always had that, right? And Sonny didn't for a very long time. My son, I was like, when is he going to feel just satisfied by doing his homework himself? Like, when is he going to enjoy getting good grades? And he's now there.
Yeah.
And I am just so overjoyed, because it just required, I don't know what it required, to be honest with you, but now he's getting A's and he's enjoying it. Now you see him like spending hours studying because he doesn't want to get anything other than A's, you know? And it just develops on its own. And I think that's the kind of thing for the child over time. They actually become more, they develop this sense of self-worth because they've done what the parent asked. And I always say this, Shannon, about our kids. A lot of kids, the reason we do things initially when we're young is because we want our parents to be happy with us and not mad at us. So with our children on the spectrum, sometimes they don't recognize that. They don't realize that the parents' emotions are in any way are affected. They don't care because they're not even aware of the parent. And once you make them aware, then it's just really good parenting.
And this is an opportunity to do that. And I should say, if you want information about how to follow through on some of these techniques, Institute for Behavioral Training, go to ibehavioraltraining.com. They start as low as $7.50 for a video training that you can get for a period of time, that you can watch it, your significant other can watch it, your babysitter can watch it.
And I recommend it, especially the modules on how to handle challenging behaviors. It's just so important that you learn these techniques.
And when people ask me, well, where should I start? I always tell them to start with compliance.
Right.
Because when you start to see what it takes, how little effort it takes to get true compliance, and true compliance for me is not that you say something and it's like a drill sergeant, like the Tiger Mom, where you say it and they do it. True compliance is when you ask somebody to do it and they want to do it for you.
Absolutely.
And they've thought through, is this a good thing to do? Because I didn't want a child that would just do whatever anybody told them to do. I want them to have a mind of their own and think, is this something that's worthwhile? Yes, I'm going to do that because I like you and I think this is worthwhile. And then they comply. Oh, that's when you've got all the good stuff going going on. Okay, I'm going to move on to this other question, though, because we've got some good questions here. Marie had written in and said, when is a good time to teach a child with autism potty training?
Oh, yeah. Well, I would, and that differs for each child and their skill set, but I don't necessarily think you should delay potty training. I think somewhere around, I would say probably 2 or so, you should work on potty training. If your child's 3, you should definitely work on potty training. I would just treat it like any other issue. Our kids learn just the same way. Typically developing kids learn, your typical kids learn, so I would do it at the same time, as young as possible. And boys usually take a little bit longer than girls, but go for it.
Okay. And then somebody else had written in on our live feature saying, how do I get started with my appointments for my daughter? She has autism, and when can I get started?
Well, if you're with a card, if you're trying to get started through card, then you just go on our website and there's a portal to get started. You can also call our 800 number and we get you started that way.
One of the best things we do, because we don't know where you are and you didn't write in
Right.
where you are, if you go to centerforautism.com and you click on the locations tab, you can see all the states where CARD is established and places where they're taking clients where they don't necessarily have a center yet, but where
Right.
they're taking clients. It'll say, if it just has a location, then you know that they have a center there. If it says taking clients now, it's a relatively new thing. But there's more than 140 across the U.S. and more that are coming. I'm told that it's going to be 200 by the end of the year. So
Yeah, that's our
just-
goal.
That's a
I think
lot.
we're around 140 right now.
Yeah, that's so 140. And if you live within 30 miles of one of those centers, then definitely start the portal. If you don't, you can still do the portal because there are other things that you can talk about. There's telehealth. There are other considerations to do. So, but it'll look a little bit different, and we can
Yeah.
talk about that another time. But centerforautism.com, go to the locations tab first and see. It is a lengthy process getting started, and people don't realize that.
Yes. And it's lengthy, and I have to apologize, but there's 2 main reasons I think that it's, well, 3 reasons, to be honest. One reason is we often have a long wait period from getting funding. So we have to gather all this information from you and send it to insurance or whoever is funding it, and that takes a while to do. And that's one reason. Another reason is just because we're very obsessive about getting to know the child, so we require you to fill out a lot of assessments on your child initially, and that's really important for us. And so that's a second reason, that so initial paperwork and then getting it through to your funding source. And the third reason is seriously just because we're overloaded. Like we have, I don't even know, the vast majority of people here at headquarters work on admissions, authorizations, posting, billing, etc. And it's all just because, in just the month of April alone, we did 216 intakes, new patients, just in 1 month. So that just takes, we're overloaded.
It's so, but sign up, and one of the things that I actually love is that you have to do the paperwork now.
Yes.
Because it used to be that you would sit and wait, and as a team was being put together for your child, and there was a little bit of paperwork to do. But now
Yes.
you'll be taking the assessment on skills, which I think is the single greatest investment you can make in your child.
Right.
Because
And it's the short assessment.
It's going to serve you for however long your child is needing extra support. It's
Right.
going to help you with your IEP. It's going to show you exactly where your child is now, which is what we all want to know in the beginning, and how far do I have to get, and how do I see progress. It's a good investment of time. It'll give you something to do, to put your energy that's positive for your kid. But don't be under the mistaken notion that, I heard somebody say yesterday, well, I think what I'm going to do is start ABA for the summer. So I think I'm going to call and get that started for the summer because I've got a little bit more free time for the summer. And my heart bled because I thought, well, if you start today, maybe you'll be starting midsummer, but you're not going to be. I think people think, oh, well, I'll just call and get services next week. It doesn't work that way.
No,
but
that's
get
true.
started. Now is a good time to start, whenever it is. Okay, I wanted to go to this question. Hi, Shanna. My teen doesn't hear when people talk to him. He has perfect hearing when tested at annual physical, and if we talk about his favorite topics, he definitely will hear. What happened was we were exiting a store. The security guard asked him if he paid. He didn't hear and didn't notice the person talking to him. I was right behind him and answered for him. This was at the grocery store. And yes, he has anxiety and auditory sensory issues. What is this, and how do we get him to tune into the world? Can see this making a social impact and being misunderstood. And thanks so much, you amazing ladies. We're looking forward to the telethon with Corey, and that's our haircut mom.
That's fantastic.
We love her.
Yes, we do. So I would have to assume that this it's not that he doesn't hear, obviously, it's that he's shut off the world due to, I would have to guess, his anxiety. So I think what you do is you do a shaping procedure. You basically do it gradually. It could be anxiety, and it could also be background noise. I don't know, but you know, it sounds like he does perfectly fine if you're talking about his favorite topics. So it doesn't sound like it's you know, background noise issue. It just has to do with the fact that if you're not on something that's of interest, he doesn't tune in. So I think what you do is you can do it multiple different ways. You can basically start by talking about his favorite things and then throw in a sentence that has nothing to do with his favorite things. And then over the course of the next month, make it 2 sentences and 3 sentences and so on and so forth. And that way get him to have dialogue. I think you'll probably succeed with that, but then it won't, it's generalization not just across the content, but I think it also has to do with generalization across people. So he might have a hard time responding. He might respond to you or listen to you, but not to strangers or someone like the security guard. So you'll need to fade into that as well. You need to shape that behavior as well, of other people talking to him who he doesn't know perhaps. And then also, and you know, just stand there and make him stop and listen for a moment. And the other thing is the way that we work on this is we go 1 sentence at a time, obviously. So you give 1 sentence, you ask a question about it, 2 sentences, ask a question about it, that sort of thing. And then I think the third factor is distance. So if someone talks to him from a distance, you're going to want to shape that as well. So start out very close and then gradually fade out. And I talk fast to Haircut Mom because she's an ABA expert by now.
Yes, no kidding.
So what you're doing is you're generalizing across the content type, and you're generalizing across the people involved doing it and the distance.
Okay, wonderful.
I want to.
You got one that you want?
Well, the one that is from Tasmania.
Okay, let's do that one next.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Shannon. I'm not. They're from Tasmania. I was going to say their name as if you would all know their name, but I don't want to identify anybody. I have found your program on YouTube, and this is how I started to follow you due to time difference. I love the program. I love you and Dr. Doreen. I'm so grateful for what you guys do. My boy is 3 years and 2 months. I do ABA at home 20 hours a week.
It's amazing.
The only ABA therapist of the state lives on a different city, so we arranged to do clinic on Skype, and she then sends me the new programs. I'm exhausted, and I'm finding it difficult to keep my son interested in rewards. The only things that effectively work for him throughout the session without running away are food and YouTube videos. So I take the phone back in between programs. The therapist said that the videos could make him uninterested in anything else at all. I'm trying to avoid to work with the phone, but it's hard even to get him sit voluntarily without it. Any advice on how to keep him engaged in ABA, and is it bad to use the videos sometimes? Thanks. Right. You know, what's funny is that there was a part of the A word where there was a phase in which Jack Riley, that's all he was interested in was the phone and watching other kids on YouTube. Yeah. And they use it.
Yeah, absolutely. You should use it. I'm just about to say that. So anything that's a powerful reinforcer, you use. Don't even worry about it. The important thing about it is the length. So if you ask him to come sit down and then you give him a video for 10 minutes, that's not good, because the reinforcer has to be, can't be longer than the task itself, the response. So you basically, if you ask him to come sit down, it is perfectly fine to give him some sort of, I think you said he also likes food. You know, basic small demands, you should probably reinforce with something that is very fast. Now, if you're able to use the videos but cut them off, that's fine too. So like you could let him watch a video for 10 seconds, cut it off, and just put it there and have him do the next task, and then let him watch 10 more seconds. A lot of times our kids get a little bit frustrated with that because the 10 seconds of a video doesn't really make a lot of sense. So what you should do is you should start a token system. Go on the IBT website, Institute for Behavioral Training, which is ibehavioraltraining.com, and learn how to do a token economy. What you want to do is you'll start out with just very basic. When he sits down, you will draw, let's say, a happy face, and you give him a candy or something that he likes. And then gradually what you do is you replace the candy with all just smiley faces or happy faces or some sticker or something that's important to him. And once you have 2 or 3 of these, then he can earn a long period of time watching a video. Now, video works perfectly fine, but you have to let the child watch it for like a minute or 2 for it to make any sense. Who knows? He might even enjoy it for 15 seconds. If he does enjoy it for 15 seconds, don't hesitate to let him watch it. The fact that someone told you that the videos would make him uninterested in anything else, no. A lot of kids are just extremely interested in videos because they get more out of it than anything else, you know, so that's not the issue. But so do this and it'll work and it'll be fine. You always, any kind of reinforcer, as long as it's short, is going to be fine. Now, more importantly, what I want to tell you is you cannot do this alone. God bless you for trying to do this, and it's fantastic, but 20 hours a week is a lot of time for one person to be doing this. So what I would really recommend you do is slow down for a minute, train yourself a little bit more, and get a team around you. So you seem like you just jumped in and you're doing a fantastic job and you're working out. I'm worried more about you burning out. So what I would do is I would really recommend strongly that you get maybe 2 other people to help you. They could be high school kids. Maybe there's a high school or something where they have to do community service. I don't know, or if you could pay them a little bit. And you teach everyone, you have everyone get on IBT, get on the Institute for Behavioral Training website and start going through those modules. That's where you learn all the techniques. You need to know these techniques. Something as simple as just having the individual come to you has a technique. There's a technique involved in come here. There's a technique involved in sit down. There's prompting that goes into each of these that are important. There's a process that's involved with putting the 2 together. There's all these shaping and procedures that are important. You can't just tell the child, come here and sit down, and they'll come here and sit down. You have to know these techniques. And these are incredibly important to the process. And if you don't do it with those the right way, you'll be frustrated, he'll be frustrated, it'll fall apart. So take the time, try to hire 1 or 2 people to help you, and then try to spend some time learning these on IBT. Obviously, once you buy a module, you can have 5 people watch it 10 times. It doesn't matter. Just get really good with this. And once you have that, then obviously you can go back and start teaching. Your child is 3, it's the best time, but don't panic. You could take a couple of months to really learn this stuff and then get your child involved with it. And we do also do telehealth, as Shannon said. I know that in Australia, your time difference is ridiculous with us, but we do telehealth. And if you're interested, you could get one of our supervisors to take you through and do all of this for you.
And what a worthwhile thing to do. I do want to say that, you know, sometimes we tell people, well, you're going to be reinventing the wheel. But the fact of the matter is that at this point in the game, there have been many people who've come before you and hired other people.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's been volunteers. We had one mom who got a local sorority. Mm-hmm. Sororities and fraternities have to adopt a cause. They have to have a charitable cause. And they adopted her child. And over a 3-year period of time, all of the sorority sisters learned and worked with the kid. Yes. And then another family that we had that their church got together and said, we're going to do this with a little girl. So, you know, we have seen people be able to do this on $0. You would not be the first one. It does mean you have to get outside your comfort zone and ask for people, and then you have to train them, and you have to be very on them and make sure that they're doing it right and being safe with your kid. And you know, it is. But the truth of the matter is that if you really want to be, if you're already doing 20 hours yourself and you really want to get to 40, let's be honest about that. where you really want to be is at 40, and there's no way that you can do that by yourself. Even if you wanted to, you wouldn't get to true generalization.
Thank
so
you.
you've got to have other
Very
people
good
on your
point.
team.
That's right. And when you go from 20 to 40, you'd be shocked how fast your child gets through these issues, because they won't tantrum as much, they won't have a hard time, because it'll be a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier. And you know, I always refer to one of our dear families who's on the recovered tapes, right? Ruffin.
Yes.
And he, who, by the way, I don't know if I told you that I decided to do a follow-up to Recovered.
Yes, I'm very excited
and
about
of course, Ruffin very graciously agreed to also be on there again. It's the same kids, they're all in, and they want to show us what amazing stuff they're doing with their lives now. And Ruffin, who I think is in his late 20s by now, is of course in a PhD program now, and he, I think, switched from robotics to computer science or something, or statistics, I'm not sure right now, but he's doing fantastically well. His family was in a very rural area in the US, and his amazing mom got all the neighbors to come and become therapists. And Evelyn, who was their supervisor, would fly out, and it would literally take like 16 hours to get there, you know, like plane, train, and automobile. Again, once you got there, you had to train everyone, the neighborhood, and they all worked with him. And I love watching those early videos, because these are moms and, you know, other students and people just coming together to help this one child.
It's doable. It's doable.
Absolutely.
But you're gonna need some help.
Support.
And that's gonna take a little bit of time, but you can do it. We're totally out of time.
Yes.
But I want to thank you so much.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
We're
it's going to be
excited.
very exciting. I'm taking a different role from here on out. What we're going to do right now is we're going to sign off, and we're going to ask you to join us right back here in exactly 1 hour. In fact, a little bit less than an hour. And then the biggest things that we're going to ask you to do are to share the feed when it's up and live. You can just copy it and share it. We're going to ask you to tweet. Our hashtag for today is hashtag Corey's Autism Angels. So we're going to ask you to tweet it out and share it. And of course, there is no donation that is too small. If you have $1 to give, $1 would be amazing. But more than anything else, we want you to share it with everybody that you know, because if everybody that you know and everybody we know gave $1, we could save a lot of lives today. So let's do that, okay? You know that I always say to you, we hold hands, we get through this together. Si se puede. I'm asking you to join me today. Si se puede. We can do this. But until then, and we will be back tomorrow live. I want to say that Bonnie Yates is going to be here with us, and we're going to really be doing some great legal work here tomorrow. So make sure you're here with us. But until then, come back in an hour. Give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.